And in the management, in the bureaucracy, we had well over 200. So in 2013, when I had an appointment as secretary, alternate secretary to the Committee on National Assembly Matters, fortunately for us, the immediate past MBA president had a passion to bring together all the lawyers within the legislative houses. But he, probably with the information he had, felt it was basically for only those who were legislators. And I had to inform him that the core work of lawyers are done by lawyers in the bureaucracy, even though legislators are also involved. So there's a need to have a body that will comprise both, all of this. So he agreed with me, and that was what gave rise to what the forerunner of what we are having today, the Nigerian Bar Association Lawyers in the Legislature Forum. We had our inaugural outing in Owerri last year at the Annual General Conference of the MBA. Some of you here can attest to that, that though we started on a little shaky note, but it was worth the while. So this year at the Annual General Conference, few weeks before the conference, I think the current MBA administration is still understudying how to engage us. They don't really have the understanding the immediate past administration had. So in June this year, before the conference, Senator Etainang, Honorable Abonta, distinguished Senator Etainang, Honorable Abonta, and I approached our amiable and passionate speaker with the idea that there should be a body independent of MBA. Yes, it's our parent body, but we need to have a body independent of MBA where we would exchange ideas, information, and attend to peculiar situations, things that pertain to lawyers working within the legislature. So immediately we told the speaker that, in fact, I didn't know from afar. I felt that probably, the office thing, bureaucracy, the speaker, in fact, took it up from there and started running with it. And as I can tell you, in August, we had the inaugural meeting of the forum. And in August, when we had the inaugural meeting, the speaker said, in fact, he was not okay with just having just a forum. He wants the real thing. And that is a body, a proper association for the legislative lawyers. So with that, we had to do our check with the Corporate Affairs Commission, who at first told us, no, as long as they had names coming from National Assembly, it was political. They would not delve into it. So we gave them some time. About a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we went back to them, proposing two names: Parliamentary Lawyers Association of Nigeria and Legislative Lawyers Association of Nigeria. They discarded one and retained one. So to the glory of God today, they have reserved the name Legislative Lawyers Association of Nigeria. The objective of this that's what will be unveiled today by the grace of God, by the Honorable Speaker, that we have come. That's why this event is historic, and I thank God for our colleagues who have made time out to come here. For us, in Nigeria today, if you don't say, I am here, especially within the legal profession, yes, I'm a member of the National Executive Committee of the MBA, but it took so long to get there. They felt what lawyers in the legislature probably are not in the mainstream legal practice, but I think would give them more information by the grace of God by making a statement with this. So without taking much of your time, I welcome you, and I pray that God Almighty will help us to establish this association that will be a bride to be wooed by MBA itself as it takes off. Thank you.
Provision of technical support, provide legal drafting services of motions, resolutions, and questions as may be required, provide legal advice in matters relating to legislative duties of legislators, provide updated information on the progress of bills, provide updated information, ensure the accuracy of assented copies of bills, and cause timely publication of final text, represent the legislature as counsel in court. On the participatory role of lawmaker legislator, he brings his learning and intellectual rigor to bear on the lawmaking process. This is seen in his consistent erudite submissions on the state of the law and case law applications intended to guide the legislature on constitutional provisions affecting any bill one way or the other, for or against a bill, motion, petition, or other legislative instruments, to guide the legislature on measures to prevent conflict with existing laws in other tiers of government. Therefore, the legislature, in making laws, require the greatest wit and wisdom of lawyers, playing different and complementary roles, either as legislator or staff. Lawmaking is originated by way of bills, and these bills are primarily drafted by lawyers. If executive, such bills are drafted either by legal department of the respective ministries, departments of agencies in liaison with the desk officers of the Ministry of Justice, and later presented to the scheduled minister to the federal executive, by the scheduled minister to the Federal Executive Council, or sometimes directly prepared by the office of the Attorney General of the Federation or Attorney General of the state. It is now presented to the National Assembly or to the state. Bills emanating from the legislature are normally, emanating from the judiciary, are normally forwarded to the National Assembly or the State House of Assembly by the Chief Justice of the Federation or the head of the judiciary, not the head of court, the head of the judiciary. This is the intellectual conceptual stage where the lawyer and drafter will consider if the subject matter for which a bill is intended meets all or any of the following parameters, which parameters will be discussed and considered at each and every stage of the bill. First is this bill a matter within the legislative competence of the National Assembly? 2, is there an existing law on the subject? 3, should the bill be an amendment bill or an originating bill in course of amending the existing law? D, should the bill seek to amend the Constitution or amend an act or an existing law? D, other parameters. That is, if you are called upon to make a motion. I've seen very many motions, particularly in the House of Representatives with leave of Mr. Speaker, sir. Most of these motions cannot be taken, should not be taken. Or if it is taken, it is for the purpose of determining jurisdiction, and it is for the purpose of being refused. Because if you bring a bill seeking that a thing be done and it needs appropriation, you cannot pass it, because if you ask it to be done without appropriation, you are asking a bill or a law to be breached. Because if it is done, it is you, the legislator, that will say, come, who appropriated that money for you to spend? Yet you have brought a bill, a motion, and it has been passed. I know there are political motions, there are legal motions. I concede. To enable a fair assessment of the intellectual legal content and expected capacity of senators and indeed legislators, may we on case basis examine what role the legislature and legislators did play in the consideration and passage or refusal of these bills or laws and issues they need to address going forward. The Evidence Act, I have already talked about the Evidence Act.
Thank you. My brother, the very distinguished Senator of the Federal Republic, and I guess I wouldn't be wrong if I refer to him as, for now, the senior advocate of, of lawyers in the legislature. doubles also as a special advisor to the President on National Assembly matters. My brother, the Speaker of Kwara State House of Assembly, the Right Honorable Dr. Ali Ahmed, my very distinguished honorable colleagues, lawyers that are members of the National Assembly, the DG, Nigerian Law Reform Commission, my own brother, Barrister Kefas Magaji, distinguished professional colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Let me, in my capacity as the chairman of this forum of lawyers in the Nigerian Legislature and the host of this event, warmly welcome you all to this summit. I'm aware that the time was too short to communicate effectively to all those that ought to be here. And so we are very thankful to all of you who made it to this event despite the very short notice. For those who may wonder why we are here, it is important at the incipient to say a few words about the forum. This is supposed to be the gathering of lawyers in the legislature currently, lawyers who are legislators, staff of legislative houses who are lawyers and staff of related legislative institutions or who service the legislature who are lawyers. This forum is also for lawyers who have developed interest and practice of law in the legislative arena. This forum is expected to give birth to an appropriate association with lawyers in the Nigerian legislature. In this regard, therefore, we are happy to announce that formal registration of the forum has reached, as was stated earlier on, an advanced stage. I implore also to use this medium to thank the initiators of this forum for their foresight and courage in the midst of intimidation for many of our professional colleagues who felt this forum shouldn't exist. I call on all of us to embrace their vision and courage as we cradle this forum into fame in no distant time. In fact, it is a surprise to me that the forum took so long in coming. It was only in the month of July this year that 3 colleagues of ours, namely our distinguished Solomon Ita Inan, Honorable Uzoma Ikem Bonta, and Barrister Mrs. Chidogo Anyego, requested for a meeting with me in my office, stating that the meeting was for us to deliberate on the need for us to come up with an association of lawyers working in the Nigerian legislature. Wasted no time in granting them audience, as I also had the burning desire for such an association. Today's gathering, therefore, is the result of that meeting, and it is hoped that today's event will get us all fired up to find a respectable place for lawyers who work in the Nigerian legislature and ensure that they too can attain the zenith of their profession. There's no gainsaying the fact that our place in the legal profession will not be considered to us without a good fight. The theme of today's summit, which is legislative law practice, prospect, challenges, and the way forward, is a very fitting theme for the status and state of affairs that we need to interrogate today. What is legislative law practice? Is there any such thing in Nigeria today? Or are we trying to establish one? The mission statement of the forum commits to develop legislative practice as an area for practice within the legal profession in Nigeria. I think that there is a thriving legislative law practice in Nigeria. The only problem is that it is not well organized. This is why we need this forum, an eventual association to advocate and organize the sector. Permit me also to state, even if it amounts to flattering all of us, permit me to state here that no one in the profession in Nigeria has more capacity to cultivate and deepen this important area of law practice than all of us that are seated in this gathering today. Dear colleagues, lawyers play a crucial role in the legislative process. It is mostly lawyers that craft bills in motion or scrutinize them. It is mostly lawyers that serve as chairmen and key staff of rules and business committees. The contribution of lawyers to debate in plenary and committees is so well established that their guidance is essential to a valid legislation. That is why it is not out of place, as suggested, that a mechanism be put in place to evaluate the role of lawyers in legislative practice for the possibility of award of the highest professional honor to deserving members. In the end, I'm on all fours with distinguished Senator Ita-Enang on this, that the perfect equilibrium in the profession would only be attained when the highest honor in the profession is awarded to members who distinguish themselves in advocating laws, professing or teaching laws, and those who craft or make these laws that others teach or advocate. No doubt the path is narrow and thorny, but with guts and gumption, for which lawyers are none, we will trek this path, not minding the pens until the vision is realized. And those who believe in the impossibility of this vision are not students of democracy. Let me say that the entire history of democracy has been the struggle between the included and the excluded groups. Years after America won independence, by the Declaration of Independence, women couldn't vote. It took serious struggle. It was even laughable, very ludicrous from the beginning, that the idea that women could vote was mooted. But it was pressed on until the struggle won us what is known today as the universal suffrage. That is part of the history of democracy. And if you cast our minds back to some few years ago, in the US, it was thought impossible for the blacks to vote until the civil rights groups started coming up and advocating, and then later it became a possibility. So I sincerely believe that if all the lawyers in this forum press hard and continue to demand from the system, we'll be able to realize this noble vision as articulated by distinguished Senator Itang. And I want to say that it is only a matter of time, if we endure, that this will become a reality. My colleagues, it is members of this forum that will serve as legal consultants to committees and defend legislative cases in court going forward. Therefore, I charge members of this august body to initiate a properly crafted and ethical lobbying legislation. This legislation should set appropriate rules and guidelines for lobbying activities. By lobbying, I mean the practice of providing legislators and policymakers with the necessary information to aid legislation in particular fields or sectors. When the association is fully established, it will be part of its responsibility to build up the capacity of its members. It is my humble view, therefore, that this association should also champion the introduction of legislative studies curricula in schools and universities. Time has come for practitioners and students to have a thorough knowledge about the legislative process, including constitutional interpretation by the legislature, theories of representation, legislative organization and rules, lobbying, legislative oversight powers, and legislature-executive relationships. The association should therefore maintain a pool of expertise in this field that could be relied on whenever the need arises. The American Bar Association ABA section of Administrative Law and Regulatory Practice now has a Government Relations and Legislative Process Committee. It is the first ABA committee to focus its activities on the legislature. The committee addresses the interests of lawyers working with and in both the Congress and state legislature in the United States of America. The committee's projects include assessment of federal regulation of lobbying, examination of the application of conflict of interest rules to lobbyists, and review of congressional investigatory procedures. The existence of this forum and association will serve as the secretariat and engine room of the section on legislative law in the Nigerian Bar Association. Finally, may I once again welcome you all to this event and pray that the foundation we're laying here today leads not only to a better legislature, but ultimately to deepening our democracy by deepening our laws, and a better and prosperous Nigeria. It is therefore my honor to formally unveil the proposed name and mission statement of a new association for lawyers in the Nigerian legislature that goes by the name Legislative Lawyers Association of Nigeria, LEGLAN, and the constitution of the steering committee to finalize the process involved in its birth. May God bless us. Thank you all, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Where is the unveiling?
Another round of applause for the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who is also chairman of the forum. He's been joined by the Speaker, Kwara State Assembly, the Special Advisor to the President on National Assembly, to unveil this forum.